Hamilton, we need to talk. Over the last few years, our students have had a knack for finding worthwhile causes to rally behind. We protested police brutality in the street on College Hill Road. From Boston to New York to Washington, D.C., we marched in support of women's rights the day after the most recent president was inaugurated. We even fought to keep our guy on the $10 bill. So clearly, Hamilton students are committed to justice, to equality, and to the ideals of our favorite founding father. But there is one area in which our activism has become slightly misguided, where it has lost touch with what makes our college's namesake so special. Specifically, when we talk about sexual assault on campus and Title IX policy, we immediately shut down any discussion about the defense of due process rights for the individuals accused of committing sexual assault. And that has to change. So Hamilton, we need to talk. Now, I want to be very clear. None of this is to suggest that we should be letting rapists off the hook or making excuses for them. None of this is to imply that women are lying about being sexually assaulted. None of this is to deny the fact that there is absolutely more work to be done to curb sexual violence on this campus. Should survivors be receiving support from the college? Yes, they should. Should there be resources dedicated specifically to helping their well-being and their safety? Yes, there should. And should survivors receive justice through our process? Absolutely. And we would not lose a single one of those protections if we added in a focus towards protecting the due process rights of the individuals accused of committing sexual assault. You see, due process is not a zero-sum game. Adding protections to one side does not take them away from the other. By definition, due process has to be applied equally. And our legal system in America, for all of its flaws, has recognized something important for hundreds of years. If you're going to punish someone, they need to have actually done what you say they did. You need to prove that they did it. And unless and until you can do that, they are innocent. Now, our on-campus sexual misconduct disciplinary process is not, strictly speaking, a criminal one, but it is, nonetheless, a judicial one. And in America, we have a system that helps keep justice in the justice system. It's called due process. So a focus on due process has been missing from our Title IX advocacy on campus because we have refused to have a difficult conversation like this one in a public forum. Because whether we're in a community conversation town hall or on the record in the student assembly minutes, we just don't talk about it. We have never once discussed the disparity in institutional resources made available to complainants, but not to respondents. For the complainants, there are the SAVE's peer advocates, students who are trained to provide emotional support, information about school policy, and access to confidential resources. Furthermore, SMART has introduced a PASA program, Policy Advisors for Sexual Assault, a group of students who would be more well-versed in Title IX policy than the SAVE's peer advocates would be. In fact, in theory, the PASA students would accompany a survivor through each and every step in the process, from deciding whether they would even file a formal complaint, all the way to sitting by their side in an investigative meeting. No such resources exist for students accused of sexual assault. In fact, the only respondent-specific information that you could find on Hamilton's website is a 4-sentence blurb answering the question, what do I do if I'm accused of sexual misconduct? 4 sentences. Furthermore, Hamilton's data collection about sexual misconduct fails to take into account the experiences of the people accused of committing it. Hamilton sent out a survey last year on that topic, but failed to ask even one single question about the experiences of students who were accused of sexual misconduct and whether they found the process to be fair. So how do we go about fixing these inequities that seem to be baked into our system here? Well, the answer is a renewed focus on due process. The process needs to be more important to us, to focus on the means as well and not just on the ends. Traditionally, much of Title IX advocacy focuses on the outcome. How many students are we punishing? How severely are we punishing them? But in order for those punishments to be just and fair and legitimate, they have to be the result of due process in which the student accused of the misconduct is truly presumed to be innocent, treated fairly, and then only held responsible if they have been proven guilty. Standing up for due process doesn't mean that we have to sell out on the movement or turn into a rape apologist. In fact, it's exactly what our own college's namesake would want us to do. Hamilton risked his reputation, his life even, to defend loyalists to the British crown during the Revolution in court. Why? Because he knew that if we allowed those people's rights to be trampled on in a search for overzealous punishment, his life's work would have been for nothing. So if we want to truly reform Hamilton's Title IX policy, if we truly want more accountability for rapists, and if we truly want to feel safer on campus, then we have to be willing to talk about due process as well. Because as gut-wrenching, as blood-boiling as such a conversation may be, we have to at least be willing to have it. Traditionally, Title IX advocacy is framed as a quest for justice. But the philosopher John Rawls would argue that when we're talking about justice, we really mean to be talking about fairness. For Rawls, a society is considered to be just if you would choose to join that society, regardless of the position you would have in it. That's what he calls the veil of ignorance. Making a decision from behind the veil of ignorance forces us to choose purely based on principles of justice and fairness alone, regardless of our own personal privilege or feelings on the matter. So the next time that you find yourselves talking about sexual assault at Hamilton, pushing for Title IX reform, I ask that you take a second and ask yourselves just one question. If I were to be involved in a Title IX complaint process today, would I be equally satisfied with the justice and the fairness I would receive regardless of whether I was the complainant or the respondent? And if you can't answer yes to that question, then that's evidence that there's still more work to be done. Until we can all answer yes to that question, Hamilton, we need to talk. Thank you.